Hello, welcome to Working Dragon Mystic, where we discuss real, metaphysical, and occult knowledge so that you can manifest real and tangible results in your life. This week, we're going to be covering a very requested topic, jar spells, so stay tuned. Okay, so I've been getting a lot of requests about jar spells, and I have already done a video on how to clean out candle jars like this one, which I will be using for the demo, and is also a great way to get spell jars for your spell work. Or you can always just buy mason jars, though I do recommend you either buy them at a dollar store or buy the case to save money. Now, I had some trouble figuring out how I was going to do this video because every time I get an email, they want something different from the jar spell. And I can't do a 5-hour YouTube video. So I've opted to walk you through the process and the ideology of a jar spell for this video. Now, I am planning to do specific style jar spell videos later. This is just an overview in jar spell magic. But if you follow this video, you can do the jar spell for your intended purpose that you have in mind. So, obviously, first off, you're going to need a jar. You can get a bigger one like this, or you can use something smaller like this. That is fine. These will work. The only downside is there's two styles of jar spells that we're going to talk about. And for the one that uses candles, this has a rounded lid. I don't like these. Don't like them at all. So I always prefer the flat top jars if I can get them. That way I can use it for both styles of spells. So, what is a jar spell? Well, it's exactly that. It is a spell that is put into a jar and contained. And you charge the ingredients as you're building it so that when you seal the jar, all that power is contained within the jar. And the spell continually radiates and brings about the change that you're seeking in your life. Now there's two main styles of jar spells. The first one is, once you cap the jar, you put it away. It does its thing like a talisman or an amulet, constantly bringing that change to your life. The second, you create the talisman the same way, but you also burn candles on it regularly to reinforce, to continually charge, add more power to it, and send an extra surge of power out into the world to create the change even faster or make the spell even stronger over time. And these are massively awesome jar spells. And when I do a jar spell, that's generally the one I do because I like to have that option. Let's talk about how we do these. Now, the first thing you're going to need for a jar spell is your basic ingredients. I generally only put in anywhere from 1 to 3 ingredients in my jar spells before liquid. Okay? So I'm not counting liquid in that count. And whatever ingredients you put in, it should align to exactly what it is you're wanting to do. So let's say you're wanting a protection over you and your home. So you want to do a jar spell for that. I would put in things that actually do resonate with you with protection. So for me, obsidian would be a great one. So would onyx. Though I'm always careful when I put stones in to make sure they're not water soluble, and I can never remember, so I always have to look it up. So I can't tell you if those two are. I don't think they are. But now for my protection spells, I also want to make it very irritating. I don't want the person to be thinking, I want them to have a reason to not come at me. So I would also put in something a little harsher. Maybe some sand. Something to rub them roughly around the edges. Even sandpaper. You could put nails in there. Something sharp, pokey, keep you away from me. I've even dropped in a little piece of barbed wire that I snipped off of a roll, just big enough to drop down in there, probably the size of a pencil or even like a Q-tip size piece. It was pretty small, but you're getting the ideal here. Now for a prosperity spell, I would put in things that do make me think of prosperity. Stone-wise, jade would be a great one. Coins. In my jar spells for prosperity, I use coins a lot. And I actually use a good mix of them, and I actually keep a few silver dollars lying around. None that's actually collectibles, but I put those in jar spells for prosperity as well. And you can even use a wood burner to create sigils and burn that into wood or write it on something that can be submerged in liquid. I prefer burning it into wood if I'm using this technique. That way I know it's not going to dissolve off. And you put that in there. Now, if you're actually wanting to do something really harsh, like some kind of war spell or something like that, like you really got a nuisance, they're just not taking the hint, that's when I would do a full-on, like, attack jar that as long as they do anything at me, this will go at them full force. And everything I put into that is a very aggressive item. Broken glass, old razor blades, nails. You get the picture. Nothing remotely pleasant. We're just going full on. You come at me, you're going to get stuck. Some people don't like that approach to magic, but sometimes people need a good smack on the head with something hard to get the hint. Now, these things I'm putting in there, and as I'm putting them in there, I'm going to charge each one individually. Now, in the case of like a handful of nails, I would actually take the whole handful of nails and charge it. One thing I like to do, if yours has a lid like this with an indentation, I'll actually put my ingredients in the lid and actually use the lid to hold them while I charge them. So I'm actually charging the lid and kind of resonating it with the item as well. And then I'll use the lid, just dump them straight in like that. I have found that actually gives me a little extra oomph for my money for whatever reason. Then I would move on to the next item. So, for protection, I would take my obsidian or my onyx pieces, place them in my lid, and I would charge them. Again, focusing on that protection, focusing on keeping me, my home, my family safe, and keeping those that would intend us harm away. And then I would dump those in. And then I would take the third item, let's say the sigil that we're burning into wood, and I'd place that onto the jar lid again, charge it again, focusing on exactly what my intent is, and then dump it in. Now at this point, you have a jar, it's got all these contents in it. Are you done? Some people will say you can go with that. I personally do not stop there. I have been taught that a jar spell requires a bulk base to it, this being some kind of liquid. And when I say some kind of liquid, your liquid, just like the items you put in, should resonate with the intent and goal you are seeking. So, for protection, we're wanting to keep someone away. Generally, you're wanting to repel them. You're wanting it to be not pleasant in some way or another. Honestly, for anything unpleasant, whether it's attack magic, protection magic, I don't care. If I'm trying to keep someone away or keep them from bothering me, I use vinegar. I love it for this use. It's cheap, it's inexpensive. Couple bucks, you can get a big old bottle of it. You can use apple cider vinegar. You can use just plain white distilled vinegar. It doesn't matter. Just get you some vinegar. Honestly, I'd go with plain white vinegar. It's the cheapest. And you can find it pretty much anywhere. So you can use that. And you fill the jar up over the items or to the top. It's up to you. I have seen people who only fill it halfway. That's fine. You don't have to fully fill it if you're trying to be frugal with your resources. That's understandable. But if I can, I do like to fill them all the way. Now, once you have the vinegar in there, you again want to actually hold your hands on the jar, and you want to focus on the jar and the vinegar, and you want to focus on that intent. You want to focus on that purpose, and you want to charge it, and then you're going to seal it, cap it down good, and you're going to do it again. You're going to charge the whole sealed container, and you're going to want to make sure your intent's focused on it. Now, once you seal the container, I have always been told don't open it, because if you open it, That breaks the seal and releases the energy. I have never actually tested that, so I can't say one way or the other. I just, once it's sealed, I leave it, I'm done, I just go on. And you have two options. You can now either just put this away and let it do its thing, or once a week or every other day, depending on how often you feel it would be needed, you could come back, place a candle upon it, light the candle, and as the candle's burning, you can stare into the flame, focus on your goal again, see it manifesting, see it bringing you what you want, see it protecting you, see it driving whoever you want out of your life away. And you just hold that focus as long as you can. I generally recommend 5 to 10 minutes for this particular exercise, at which point let the candle burn out on the jar. If you're too worried about leaving it burning, you can blow the candle out, as we've discussed in other candle magic spells. Just when you blow it out and offer energy to it, so that your jar is not only becoming that talisman and that item, but that candle is. So when you come back and relight it, you're just further charging both of them, which actually ain't a bad idea because it keeps ramping up your power and the results all around. So that is how you would do a jar spell. Now, I know what you're saying. Drake, you talked about vinegar. What about other things? Okay, I want to cover that. Now, I did say think of what would resonate with you for your goal. So if I'm wanting something that is healing, for example, or calming, I generally lean to water because water just naturally calms me. The sound of water is just calming and healing. If I'm doing a spell that deals with emotions in any way, I use water. Because again, water uses those emotions. Now, if I'm trying to draw something to me, if I'm trying to make something better, very pleasant, fixing a friendship, perhaps I just want more friends. Granted, I'm somewhat not a social person, so that's not a big issue for me. Or perhaps I had an argument with one of my friends and I'm just trying to get on better terms. You get the idea. That's where I would use honey. And this is probably where most people have heard of jar magic because they usually hear of sweetening spells or honey jar spells, which are used to particularly either sweeten a friendship or find love, or to draw a lover to you, or even attempt to make a specific person sweet on you and love you. And you can do that. You can attempt that. Though I would say focus more on drawing love to you as opposed to the person. I honestly cannot think of an example where a love spell that literally focused on a person went well. I can think of many cases where they got the person they wanted, but in the long term, it never ended well. Maybe someone out there has, and that's great if you have. It's just by the numbers. It's a tricky one. It's not impossible, but it is tricky. Like I said, you have two options. You can just put it away and have it draw in what you're wanting, or you can burn candles on it on regular intervals to add more power to it and charge it and help to draw your goal to you quicker. So, what happens once you get what you need? That's when you dispose of the jar. Now, I have heard a lot of things. You have to walk out to a crossroads, dig a hole, and bury it. You have to deconstruct it completely, making sure to dispose of everything, including the jar, never to be used again. I'll be honest, I've not done any of those, and I've had no problems. What I do is I open the jar, I empty the contents in a safe place, mind you. I do recommend opening it over a sink, just in case, because they get messy when they open. And I clean them up. And once the jar is clean, I put it in my cabinet for storage for another spell later. Now, I do not use jars that I use for spell work for anything food related or in the kitchen or anything like that, because you never know how the things that you put in a spell jar is going to react. Like vinegar and iron, they will literally eat one another. You leave the iron in there long enough, it will disappear. So you'll just have this like metallic water substance, and I ain't going to trust any cleaning solution to say I got that clean and it's safe. So, no. If I use it for spell work, it's for spell work. Nothing edible. Anyways, that really is the bare bones framework of using jar spells. And as you can see, you can easily customize the ingredients you put in, the liquid you put in, and how you utilize it for pretty much anything you want. I have seen some wonderfully, wonderfully creative jar spells. I actually saw one honey jar spell that was designed for career success. I don't know that I'm allowed to share how this particular magician built it, but they did. They got the exact career they was wanting. Their success built up to a point where they branched off, opened their own business, and now they work like 4 days a week, probably less than 8 hours a day. They're doing great. I'm a little jealous, but they credit that jar spell, that one jar spell, for their entire success. So I hope you give Jar Magick a try, because this is some fun stuff to do. It's real easy. You can even make them decorative so they just look like decorations around your home. I know a lot of magicians do that. Though if you do, put some kind of tape or something around it so people know not to open it. That would be my biggest thing. Just so it looks sealed or something. I know my mom used to have decorative jars with like oil in them or something. We knew not to open them, but people today, I don't know. They tend to want to open everything. They get handsy on everything in another person's house. I don't know why. But just public service announcement: if you go to somebody's house, don't go opening everything. That's just rude. So yeah, give it a try. Speaking of oil, if you're actually wanting to slip someone up, for example, that's a great thing to do. Make life slippery, make it hard for them to get a hang on something. Oil could be handy. And I will tell you this, one thing that I do, if you're wanting to affect someone mentally, you're wanting them to be in a state of confusion, you're wanting them to be slower, perhaps even clumsy, use alcohol. Go get you a bottle of like $9 gut rot from the liquor store. Use that as your liquid, because it will send that inebriating effects to them. Just a little example. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you give Jar Magick a try. If you have enjoyed the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and make sure you hit the like button. That really helps out the channel a lot. Also, if you have any questions, leave them below. I'll do my best to answer them. I try to get to all the questions. I am sorry if I missed yours. Also, feel free to just drop us a comment and say hi. Helps the channel out. And of course, every Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can find me on the live stream, Research and Ramblings of a Mage, right here on the YouTube channel. I get on, I talk about some of the stuff I've got going on in my private research, talk to you all, take your questions, do my best to answer them. You all do occasionally throw questions I just don't really have an answer for at the time, but that gives me something to learn as I move on to and possibly answer it the next week. And of course, Sunday, we have the Magical Coffee Hour at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I'm joined by the Linda from Caffeine and Chaos. And she comes in, she asks me questions of all kinds, and I do my best to answer her questions. And then when we're done with that topic, we also take questions from the viewers. It's a wonderful time, a lot of fun. I hope you join us for both of them. I'm Drake. This has been Working Dragon Mystic, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.